Dr. Bogoch, hospitalizations dropped yesterday in Ontario, but I know not all hospitals report on the weekend. It being a holiday weekend, that might add to that. I imagine the numbers are probably steadier than we think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't think we could look at that one day, especially on a weekend, especially on a holiday weekend, and take anything away from it. In fact, we'll probably see a steady state of hospitalizations and maybe even a rise in hospitalizations over the next week or so. But it will eventually come down. I mean, we're starting to see the wastewater surveillance come down, and then obviously hospitalizations and sadly deaths are lagging indicators. So it might be a little bit more time before we start to see those metrics budge a little bit in the right direction.
Are you surprised we're seeing the wastewater numbers come down?
No, I mean, all waves come to an end, and this wave is no different. If we look at the other BA2-driven waves in Europe and in Asia, they were truncated, for lack of a better word. They weren't as big as the more recent wave, and they sort of seem to rise and fall rather quickly. Now, that doesn't mean we have to take the same path that they'll take, but it's helpful to look and learn from other countries. And I think that was in the cards, especially since about a third of the province was recently infected and recovered over the course of December, January, and February. That also confers a lot of protection, plus the very high rates of vaccination. Still, I mean, it's sad. This is a wave. People got sick. People ended up in hospital. Some people are going to die from this, but it will likely be a smaller wave than the wave we most recently had.
Let's talk about vaccine for a moment, because I know there's discussion about fourth boosters, who gets them, how much they're needed by which populations. And I know the New England Journal of Medicine finds that the fourth booster protection seems to wane quite early, only after about a month. Is it still worthwhile for some populations within our population to get a fourth shot?
Right. I mean, I think you raise a very good point, right? We can look at the science, and then we have to figure out a way to translate the science into policy. Based on the existing science, it's clear that the fourth booster is most beneficial for people who would fall into the category of being on the older end of the spectrum, frail, multiple medical comorbidities, immunocompromised, like the people who are at the highest of high risk for hospitalization from COVID. Those are the people who would benefit most from that fourth dose. But again, I think it's also fair to say that we don't have a ton of information on the fourth dose, and we really need high quality data. Not all data is created the same. And we need what's called a prospective randomized control trial, which gives us very high caliber, high quality data. And that's the type of data where you can actually have more meaningful conversations and make more meaningful policy.
But does Canada even have enough supply for a fourth shot go around, or are we dwindling on supply?
No, we've got supply. We actually have a ton of supply. And in fact, I think Canada's even trying to give away vaccine before it expires. And it's interesting. I mean, obviously, we need to improve the global vaccine uptake, but it's not necessarily a supply and demand issue right now. I think the global vaccine program, COVAX, has a lot of vaccine, and now we're really we have more supply than we know what to do with.
Well, that is nice to hear, and I'm glad some of that is getting out to other countries. I haven't sort of touched base with you on that in some time, so it's good to hear. Dr. Bogoch, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate your time.
Have a great weekend.